Will John Douthat please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And will the interim city clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Hodges?
Here.
Commissioner Oakley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Douthat?
Present.
Mayor Black?
Present.
Commissioner Lister has an excused absence tonight.
All right. And I believe Acting City Manager has a few words that he would like before we get started.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. It's been that kind of a day, okay? Just to let you know, it's been a pretty hectic day out here at the city of Madeira Beach. As you know, we have a storm of unprecedented proportions headed toward our area. We're doing our due diligence to make sure that we can minimize the damage associated with this storm. And while it's still too far off to actually predict where it's going to make landfall, there's some preparations that we should make and ought to make. Number one, we've got sandbagging operations that will be taking place. Part of them started today. The rest of them will start tomorrow. Individuals that are able to sandbag their own homes is encouraged to go to Archibald Park tomorrow and to get those sandbags if they so desire. We've actually had to deliver some to some individuals with limited mobility, but we've taken care of our citizens. That's our job and our purpose. There's going to be probably a mandatory evacuation of our special needs shelters sometime on Thursday. Unless something changes, there will be a mandatory evacuation of all level C residents coming on Friday. And the actual storm event is probably we'll start feeling some effects from it on Saturday, Sunday. So it is a major event for us. It's very spectacular what we're having to deal with right now, what we're having to prepare for. I can tell you that your city staff's working hard to make sure that we minimize the impact of this event. We're preparing by doing the sandbagging operation, making sure that we get that information out to our public and helping to assist and prepare for evacuation operations. We're encouraging our citizens to monitor the local weather station. They get the information in real time, about as fast as we do. And to comply with whatever the regulations and requirements are coming down from the Pinellas County Emergency Operations Center through this office to the public. When the evacuation notice is given, please be prepared to leave. We prepare our newsletters every year that give you the all hazard report. Read over those and make sure that you comply as far as having food, shelter, your medications. A lot of things that we don't normally think about are things like actual money. You know, if our systems go down, so our ATMs go down, we're out of money. Make sure you got fuel in your vehicle. And if you're going to evacuate early. If you've been out on the mainland side today, it's already getting a little crazy out there. So the sooner you can prepare for those events, the better off we're going to be. So with that said, we're preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And also, as I just informed the city manager, we're going to be having a conference call with Governor Scott this evening after the meeting, so we'll get more information and let you know if there's anything else that you need to know.
I had one question. Chief, if anybody needs sandbags delivered, can they just call City Hall and you'll take care of that, or whoever answers the phone?
They can't call it to City Hall. It needs to be someone who can't deliver the airbags or manage the airbags themselves.
Sandbags.
What is that?
Airbags.
It's been a long day.
Right,
Yes,
no, I know, but they can call City Hall if they can't physically get to City Hall or to Archibald Park.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we do. We take care of our residents and whatever we have to do for them, especially during these type of situations. So if there's a situation where they can't get them, we will bring them to them.
Okay.
We've already delivered, I think, 40 individual residents today. So and we've got another 60 that are going to be delivered. So if anybody needs those, our staff's very limited, so it's a pretty arduous task to get all this accomplished, but together we're making those things happen. We've had people from the rec center volunteer, we've got people at Public Works. It's about all of us coming together to make this situation work for us. So I appreciate those people for stepping up and doing that job for us, so.
And
Thank you.
the sandbags are free for residents of Madeira Beach and the Reddingtons, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When the storm finally passes, let's say on Sunday, where it's all clear, is it going to be on the website that it's okay for us to come back?
Yes, ma'am.
Or do we need to call someone?
We're going to put that on the website and get it out to as many people as we possibly can. We've got a great Facebook page right now that will give you that information. It'll also be on the website. The situation is going to be, if it hits us, it's going to be bad. And the bad part's not only the event itself, it's going to be the aftermath of the event, because you're going to have down power lines, you're going to have fuel issues, you're going to have contaminated waterways. So it actually, depending on the event of the magnitude of the storm, it may actually be a few days after the storm passes before you're allowed to get back on the island, simply because we don't want you getting out here and getting into a power line or getting into some type of toxic chemical that's out here. But we'll do our very best. We're going to put extra firefighters on, so as soon as the storm's done, within the next 12 hours, they're going to do a windshield survey of all the properties here, so we'll have an overview of what the situation is. We're probably going to fly our drone around and see if we can get some elevated access points to see exactly what's happened to our beach. Yes, we met with DOT today. DOT was actually very good to us as far as looking forward into this event and offering their assistance in the recovery operations. And that's going to be huge for us after this event. So,
Okay, I have another question too.
yes, ma'am.
Now, I had heard, and I don't remember the last time we evacuated, but I had heard that the bridges go up.
No,
Is
ma'am.
that-
That's
they do
incorrect.
not?
The bridges
Okay.
are actually locked in the down position. That way they're more stable in that situation. I probably shouldn't even say this, but what will happen when the mandatory evacuation comes through, for your own benefit, once you leave the island, you will not be allowed back on until after the situation is cleared. Every storm season that comes through, we have people that refuse to leave the island. We've been fortunate in the past that we haven't lost some individuals during those situations, but they're putting themselves in harm's way, and they're also putting the first responders that are going to be going out there to get you. So, I encourage them to, if a mandatory evacuation is given, leave and don't come back until the all clear is given.
As far as damage to our houses or anything, we won't know anything for a couple days.
That's very possible, but your houses will be secured. The sheriff's office is here, and they will make sure there's no looting going on, and we will do our level best to get you back on the island as soon as humanly possible.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. There are no minutes to approve, and at this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes, or approve the agenda as is.
I'll second that.
Any comments from the commission? Any comments from staff? Interim City Clerk, will you please read the roll?
Vice Mayor Dalther?
Yes.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Blagg?
Yes. This time, I'd like to open the floor for public comment, and just please remember to limit your time to 3 minutes. Speak directly into the microphone, give your full name and address, and be civil and respectful.
Linda Hine, 401 150th Avenue, right here in Madeira, 33708. I just wanted to say I went onto the website today to find out about the agenda, and it was so pleasant to see a lot of improvements on the website, and I just wanted to say thanks for doing that. On the first page, you can find out about the hurricane all y'all's pictures are there, the meeting's coming up, the agenda. It was so great. So thanks for that effort and keep it up. I just want to say thanks. Bye.
Anyone else? Moving on to new business, we have a first reading of ordinance 2017-10 of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, establishing the millage rate for the fiscal year 2018, providing and announcing the name of the taxing authority, the rolled back millage rate, the percentage increase over the rolled back millage rate, and the millage rate to be levied, provided by a reading in its entirety and provided for an effective date.
Ordinance 2017-10, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, establishing the millage rate for fiscal year 2018, providing and announcing the name of the taxing authority, the rolled back millage rate, the percentage increase over the rolled back millage rate, and the millage rate to be levied, providing for reading in its entirety and providing for an effective date. Whereas Florida Statute Section 200.065 requires the adoption of the millage rate by separate vote and prior to the adoption of the budget, and whereas Florida Statute Section 200.065 requires that prior to adoption of the millage levy ordinance, the following be publicly announced: the name of the taxing authority, the rolled back millage rate, the percentage increase over the rolled back millage rate, and the millage rate to be levied. And whereas in no event may the millage rate adopted exceed the millage rate tentatively adopted, now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, Section 1, the name of the taxing authority is the City of Madeira Beach. Section 2, the rolled back millage rate for fiscal year 2018 is 2.0435 per $1,000. Section 3, the fiscal year 2018 proposed millage rate is 7.66% higher than the rolled back rate. Section 4, the millage rate to be levied for fiscal year 2018 shall be 2.2000 per $1,000. Section 5, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption.
Any questions from the commission? Okay. All right, now the floor is open for public comment on this agenda item.
Tom Edwards, protected address. I don't know if this is the point to talk about the millage rate. The only thing I was concerned about is the raises for the employees at 4%. I understand they got 4% last year. The current cost of living is 3%, which is what most city governments are giving right now. So I haven't heard of a justification why they're getting 4%. If someone could explain as we go along, perhaps if our employees are so underpaid compared to other communities, does that justify it alone, or why are they getting 4% instead of 3% cost of living, which is most municipalities getting now, as well as Social Security?
And Mayor, I was going to address that issue. Basically, there are some parameters that we wanted to keep the same when we built this budget. And when I started here on May 14th or 15th, and basically because the 4% was given this year, we decided to keep that the same. Now, with that said, we had a limited time to complete this budget, basically 3.5 months. Basically, I want to extend that time in completing the budget. I actually want to start, in November, December, on the next following year's budget. We want to try to enact merit and look into merit raises. So we want to change that process. But that's not something you can start right away. It takes a while to do that. It involves evaluations and maybe changing some of that process. So that is something we're headed toward. So the next time around and the next budget, It's not going to be like this. It's probably going to be a combination of cost of living and merit. So that's the direction we want to go. Oh, one other thing too, I wanted to just say, there was a question that was posed to me, I think probably the last meeting or two. What was the cost of 1%? And that's about $23,000. So it's not a significant part of the budget or other items of the budget.
Good evening, Mark Merrill, 581 Crystal Drive. I wasn't going to say anything on this particular.
Handheld microphone? Handheld. Microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, Marv Merrill, 581 Crystal Drive. I was going to hold this comment till next segment, but the gentleman talked about the 4% increase. Actually, I think he overstated the cost of living. The cost of living is 0.03%. It's not even 1%. And you can look at your Social Security check and see that reflected in your Social Security check. You got a 0.3% increase. In the last 5 years, the highest COLA has been 1.7%. The average has been under 1% for the last 5 years, if you average it out. So where in the world you ever got 4% across the board cost of living increase is beyond me. As far as the cost goes, the cost of salaries is like $4.8 million, and if you go 4% of 4.8 million, you're way above $160,000. So for the last 2 years, we've given a 4%, including this year, increase across the board. Now, if you're saying that our employees are underpaid, they're not getting proper pay treatment, where do you get that information? Did you make a study to prove that they're not? Or did you just pull this out of thin air? We'll give them a 4% across the board increase. I don't think there's a community in this county that's given a 4% increase for the last 2 years. You'd probably have to look far to find a city that's given a 3% increase. So what you've done for the last 2 years is given an 8% increase without anything to substantiate that at all. You pulled that number out of the air. You have a responsibility, this commission has a responsibility to see that the money is spent wisely. Now, how in the world can you support the fact that you spent this money wisely? You can't. So I'm really disappointed that you stick with that 4% increase, and maybe you haven't. Maybe in the next segment, we'll find out it's been changed. I certainly hope so. Thank you.
Marin, since the last budget hearing, I've done a little couple checking of the other beaches. It seems there's been, most of the beaches around here are doing 3%, some 4%. Indian Shores you could get a possible 5%, which is 2% cost of living and 3% merit. And that's where we want to head to. But it seems like that the average along the beaches here has been 3%.
So Walters, I'm sorry.
Debbie Weinstein, 441 129th Avenue. I can't remember right off, but is that 4% within the budget called a cost of living increase, or is it divided up somehow? Is it strictly called a cost of living increase?
It's considered a 4% raise for staff. By the way, the firefighters get 3% based on union contract.
Okay, I was just thinking that if it is called a cost of living increase, can that wording be changed?
It's not really called cost of living.
Okay.
It's just a raise. And again, and I want to stress this because when I came here, I really didn't like the way, or I didn't really think the way we were doing was the proper way. But again, it was too late, not too much time to do what we maybe wanted to do. But next time around, we want to bring more of merit and rewarding people who go the extra yard. And we've talked about how to do that. We think we have a plan in effect, and we just need to implement it. But it's not something you do overnight. It's not something that takes 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. It takes a while to do it. And you got to educate your staff, the directors. You need to make everybody informed of how it works. It's just not something you can do. And it takes time. But that's something we're committed to doing.
Any more public comment? Public comment is now closed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2017-10.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2017-10.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion from commission,
Yes,
staff?
I have something. So you're saying that we're going to give the employees a 4% cost of living raise, and then there's also a merit on top of that?
No, we're talking next year's budget. This year, the 2018 budget is a 4% raise for staff. For the 2019 budget, which we will start, I want to start it once, maybe in November or December. I want to start it early. On that budget, we will implement merit. It was too late to implement any type of merit in this budget. But that's something we want to go to.
So by doing the merit raise, you would cut down on the cost of living raise? Is that what you're saying?
We would allocate a cost of living percentage, but allocate another percentage, maybe based on maybe a 2% cost of living. I'll give you an example of how Indian Shores did it. I used to work there. And they did this when I was there. 2% cost of living, and then you had an opportunity to get a 3, a 4. You had a possibility of getting a 5% raise. If you were marginal, you probably got the cost of living 2 plus the additional percentage, or maybe 3%. If you were above average, you get the 2% cost of living plus another 2%. If you were superior, you probably got the 2% cost of living plus an additional 3%.
Madam Mayor, all those things are details to be worked out in the future. I think what we would probably wind up starting with was some type of salary survey, so we'll know exactly where our employees, where they meet up with the rest of the public out there. I can tell you right now, the last thing I want to do is do any type of actions that will demotivate the employees we have. We have fantastic employees, and if you don't believe it, go out there tomorrow and see them throwing sandbags. You don't only have public works people out there, you got parks and rec people out there, you got firefighters out there, you got everybody pulling together. So it's not one job. You can't say, oh, this person is a public works director. They're a public works director, but they fill in so many different avenues out there. So I think where we start with this process, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but the way we're going to start this process is by doing a salary survey, finding out exactly what our employees are doing on a daily basis out there, and seeing how that merits up with the surrounding community and like-sized departments. So I think we got off on a little bit of a tangent there. It's been kind of a difficult situation all the way around from Walt's perspective and my perspective as well. We've got good staff out there. We gave them 4% last year. My recommendation would be to continue that 4%. Let us get past the area that we're in right now. Let us sit down, evaluate, and look at the program, see what the salary surveys yield, and look at similar sized departments out there so we'll know what we're paying our employees is appropriate or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, at this time, will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes?
Commissioner Oakley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalfer?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. All right, next, we have the reading of ordinance 2017-11. Attorney Agello?
Well, did you want to say something before I read the ordinance? Okay. Ordinance 2017-11, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018, providing for reading in its entirety and providing for an effective date. Whereas Florida Statute Section 166.241 requires the adoption of a budget each fiscal year, and whereas the amount available from taxation and other sources, including balances brought forward from prior years, must equal the total appropriations for expenditures and reserves, and whereas at a minimum, the adopted budget must show for each fund as required by law and sound financial practices, budgeted revenues and expenditures by organizational unit, which are at least at the level of detail required for the annual financial report required under Section 218.32, subsection 1, and whereas the adopted budget must regulate expenditures of the municipality, and an officer of a municipal government may not expend or contract for expenditures in any fiscal year except as pursuant to the adopted budget. And whereas the City of Madeira Beach tentative fiscal year 2018 budget is balanced, is presented at the level of detail required to file the annual financial report, and shall regulate expenditures of the city for the period beginning October 1st, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, Section 1, the fiscal year 2018 budget shall be governed by the following funding sources and uses. Funding sources: governmental and proprietary funds. Governmental funds: general fund, total funding sources, $9,967,500. Proprietary funds, is that the entire? Oh. Local option sales tax fund, total funding sources, $430,000. Archibald Fund, total funding sources, $388,800. Building Fund, total funding sources, $458,300. Gas Tax Fund, total funding sources, $111,600. Debt Service Fund, total funding sources, $1,417,200. Proprietary funds: Sanitation Fund, total funding sources, $1,405,000. Stormwater Fund, total funding sources, $1,555,700. Marina Fund, total funding sources, $2,376,700. Total funding sources: governmental and proprietary funds, $18,110,800. Funding uses: governmental and proprietary funds. Governmental funds: general fund, total funding uses, $9,967,500. Local option sales tax fund, total funding uses, $430,000. Archibald Fund, total funding uses, $388,800. Building Fund, total funding uses, $458,300. Gas Tax Fund, total funding uses, $111,600. Debt Service Fund, total funding uses, $1,417,200. Proprietary funds: Sanitation Fund, total funding uses, $1,405,000. Stormwater Fund, total funding uses, $1,555,700. Marina Fund, total funding uses, $2,376,700. Total funding uses: governmental and proprietary funds, $18,110,800. Section 2, total funding sources and uses include fund balance reclassifications which are appropriated for governance purposes but represent neither revenues nor expenditures. Section 3, total funding sources and uses include interfund transfers which are appropriated for governance purposes but represent neither revenues of the debt service fund nor expenditures of the general fund. Section 4, total funding sources and uses will be amended as of October 1st, 2017 to include encumbrance balances legally reserved as of September 30th, 2017, i.e. balances not otherwise limited per Section 10.6 of the City Charter. Section 5, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption.
Any questions from the board or staff?
I have a question. This is something that we discussed at the very first budget meeting, and I had someone ask me this the other day. It's under the fire, page 42. It's line item 5210. Under departmental supplies, it went from $8,500 to $31,000. And they were asking me exactly what it was. When I informed them of the next page over, where it described it, $31,000, kitchen supplies, cleaning supplies, disposable material, etc. They asked me, what is etc.?
It's a very good question. I'd be asking the same question. Actually, that wasn't labeled appropriately or in its completeness. There's a lot of items that are being purchased for the new ladder truck that's scheduled to go in service here at the end of the month, that's included in there as well. There's a lot of items in there as far as air jacks that will use for stabilizing the vehicle. There's some other different maintenance items that's in there. Obviously, we're not spending $31,000 on kitchen supplies, but I can get you a detailed list of exactly what we're purchasing for that.
Well, the next question I was given was I did mention the ladder truck.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then the next question was given to me about the capital equipment, line item 6,400. And the same thing on that would be the $50,000 spent for the equipment for the ladder truck.
That is
Could that not been added to that?
Well, the capital items are of a higher value than what the regular, these are the smaller items. The original price that we were talking about, so smaller items that are purchased for the truck. The items over $15,000 are the ones that's going into capital items.
So in other words, that additional amount of $31,000 should stay where it's at and not come under the capital.
Yeah, because it are small items. Anything that's capitalized that adds to the truck, adds to the value of the truck, probably over $5,000 in one purchase or one item, that's capital. Because it gets added to the capital total value of the truck.
Well, they felt like it was kind of misleading because of the way it's labeled here as kitchen supplies. You know, and it is when you look at it, kitchen supplies, $31,000 increase from $8,500 last year. And they talk about the cleaning supplies. So it did cause questions.
Absolutely, and I don't blame you. We should have done a better job with actually detailing what's being purchased there out of that ladder truck, but it's because of the price value that's being spent for it. I can give you a detailed list if you'd like of exactly what's being spent for that truck, but there's a lot of additional purchases that were required, things like headsets for the firefighters, extra casing gear that would come out of the capital side of the house, extra fire hoses, things that we need to put that truck in service, make it functional for us. But I can get you a detailed list of that if you'd like.
Thank you.
And I apologize for not having that detail better for you in the initial document.
Any other questions from the commission?
I have a question. Why do we not have any revenue for beach concession lease at Archibald and or South Beach? I haven't found that one either.
What page is that?
Which is, it's on page 73.
I believe I added that into the general fund and not into Archibald.
Can't do that. What happens at Archibald has to stay in Archibald.
Wait a minute. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. It was moved. It was called beach concession lease. And if you look underneath that snack shack operating lease, that's really where it is, right there.
Well, how can that be? Because it stopped in 2016 with $43,000. And in 16, the revenue from the snack shack was 72, and it's still 72. There's been no increase to show that got absorbed into there.
I'm not sure. But the snack shack lease, the 72,000, that is a good figure. But I don't know, the beach concession,
Let's see. Is that the chairs and stuff out on the beach? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yes, sir, that is. Saltwater Destination has that contract. We can pull those numbers for you.
Well, I just need to know where it is in the budget, and wherever it is, it
That's where
should be
it is,
moved
right
back
there.
into Archibald Fund.
It's, I believe that's where it is.
Who has the one at South Beach? Same people?
Yes, but I'm not sure, I believe, I was not involved in that, but I believe when the RFQ was awarded, that Archibald was separated out for purposes of the
being
agreement
Archibald.
with the Archibald part.
Right.
And then the rest of the beach, they have the rest of the beach accesses all the way down to Johns Pass Park. So it's an accounting thing with Donna. I think that if you give me a couple days to get that.
Okay, but in the revenue for the chairs for Archibald need to be in Archibald
Right.
Fund.
Yes.
Chairs, that's where it is.
Saltwater destination.
It is in the general fund under charges for services. I can move it into Archibald, that's not a problem.
Is it broken now?
Page 16 at the top.
So you're,
$10,000?
yeah, something's wrong there.
$10,000 and back in Archibald in 16, we were getting 43,000?
Yeah.
I think there's an issue either with the contract or something ain't right here. Because that's a lot, that's a big difference.
If I remember correctly, that contract was renegotiated down to the $10,000 amount, and I'm not sure of that. We'll have to research that and get back to you.
Way down.
Way down.
Yeah. Yep.
And there may be an additional amount on there added to the end of the year, depending on what their sales revenues are. But we can get that information and get it back to you. Remember that?
Yep.
Can we get a copy of that contract? I'd like to see it, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we have to break this out between the South Beach and Archibald, and how much will go into Archibald?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, but we don't know how much will go into Archibald at this point.
Of the 10,000.
At this, not off the top of my head. sitting here.
Okay,
No,
thank
sir.
you.
No, sir.
With that being said about Archibald, I mean, you and I have had the conversation about Archibald and the use of the 3 people in there that are not working at Archibald, and the fact that there's $15,000 going to Archibald for contractual labor and $15,000 going to South Beach for contractual labor. So the 3 people in Archibald aren't even working at either one of the parks because you've got contractors in there doing it. And I've already been through this with you. I know where you're coming from. I just wanted to put that out there because these are the kind of things that have got to be looked at. And I know the time constraint, and I know everything that happened about putting this budget together, and you were just trying to get pretty much out, and it's pretty much a copy of last year, that nothing happened to it. So I just wanted to make some of those things public, that we are going in and looking at a lot of the things that are inside of here.
There was some, admittedly, there's some staff in the city are split in the different funds. What I would prefer in preparation of the next budget is to do more of a time study or a percentage study of how they spend their time, and spend more time in doing that, and making sure that they're costed at the right place. All I can tell you, that everything that I've looked at this point, I can justify. Now, it doesn't mean that we can do better, and looking at the percentage of the time that they are charged to these funds.
And I think looking forward to the budget review committee that's being developed will help us along the way to make sure that there's transparency and that we have all of our information accurate before it gets to you.
Right, I've also had the conversation with Watt about setting up the enterprise funds like they were back in 2013, because that helps the transparency level of what's going on inside each fund, and that they're paying for themselves and supporting themselves. And then, well, you know, what's left over can go to the general fund or whatever, or make it so there's a reserve for them. But I think that this could, not having the time, I think this could be a lot better budget.
We'll work on it.
Well, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, the floor is now open for public comment.
Marv Merle. Well, actually, there's so many things in this budget that needs to be challenged. And I've only got 3 minutes. By the way, Commissioner, that was a good question you had. This budget is really bloated as far as I'm concerned. I don't know just where to start, so I've limited it to the Recreation Department. Personnel salaries costs in the last 4 years have gone up $300,000. The revenue in this Recreation Department has gone up $100,000. I can remember some of the commissioners back a couple of years ago saying, oh boy, we get that new ball field, we're going to get so much revenue coming in. Well, we ended up getting $100,000, but it's cost us over $400,000. Expenses in that department from 2015 to 2018 has gone up $400,000, from $465,000 to $843,000. It's just ridiculous. You look at expenses. Back in 2014, there was no travel money in the Recreation Department. Today, there's $17,700 for travel in the Recreation Department. 2 of the employees are asking for $10,200 for their travel expenses. Now, I don't know where they went. Must be around the world for that kind of money. Recreation Department uniforms, $3,500. That's about $400 per employee for uniforms, and that's been going on the last 3 years. I see they've got in there for a replacement for a 2005 truck, Ford truck, 2005. I drive a Toyota 2005, got 80,000 miles, and I can't imagine a truck putting many miles on in this little city that's 2 miles long that has to be replaced. Anyway, it just goes on and on when you look at the budgets. All these kind of things have happened. All this money is in there, $18 million, and you people have not cut a nickel out of $18 million. It's ridiculous. You haven't taken the time to really look at a budget and ask questions on items that jump right out at you. And that's your responsibility. You're spending taxpayers' dollars. It's up to you to protect those dollars.
Mayor and Council, one other thing I just wanted to mention. Since the proposed budget, we did cut $71,400, which Darrell volunteered in cutting one firefighter. Those savings went into increasing professional development by another $23,400 because we felt additional money needed to be in there. We have a new director in the planning department, and there is now a budget of $83,400 to budget those 2 consultants. So that there's a limit there, and that has to be managed. And we had some additional increases in revenue. Communication services tax went up $8,200. And basically, the bottom line, the general fund, we were able, with some of these changes, also increase the unassigned fund balance by $6,100. So I just wanted to make council aware of that.
Any other comments?
Debbie Weinstein, 441 129th Avenue. think, and I know this is hard to say, but I think the history of the last 5 years has really put us in a mess budget-wise. I think so many extravagances were done, but we can't take them back now. I think the idea that all of this money is spent, and from what I looked at, for instance, the resurfacing of streets was this hideously low amount compared to other costs that should have been looked at. I also think that especially the three commissioners who were elected in March had a really responsibility to us citizens to take us, or to try to take us out of such of this mess. And I think that hopefully for 2018-19, that will prevail. I think that this idea, this water taxi and this other crap was just, I think it was not thought out by our current commission. And I just hope that you remember why we wanted you in here so desperately, okay? That we've got to have some more responsibility and accountability for the budget. Thank you. And I hope that you will use the Budget Review Committee for a lot of things that can assist staff with looking into different items. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I just would like to say one other thing, too. You know, my philosophy is, just because, and I shared this with a couple other commissioners, my philosophy is that just because an item is budgeted doesn't mean necessarily that you can spend it. And I think we need to change some of them. You know, Darrell and I have talked about this. I think some of the mindset needs to change, that there needs to be, our approval process needs to change as far as approving invoices and approving things before they actually get purchased and received. And we want to improve that process. So again, just because something's budgeted doesn't mean that you can go ahead and spend it. I mean, we're still going to look at things, and if we don't think that things need to be purchased and we can save money, that's what we're going to do.
Anybody else? Okay, public comment is now closed, and I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2017-11.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2017-11.
I'll second it.
Will the interim city clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Actually, before we do that, Mayor, did you want to read into the record Commissioner Lister's objections that he had on this particular ordinance?
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to do that.
I can certainly do it. That's
No,
no
I'll be
problem.
glad to, that's
Okay.
fine. Commissioner Lister would like this read into the record. He said let me cut to the chase here. He's asked to go on record saying that he doesn't agree with the budget. The chief fire inspector should be cut from the budget because of the longevity of the liability and the retirement pension. This is way too much for the city to take on paying his or her career. This is not a good move for the city.
You know, Mayor, I'd like to say something about that, too. Maybe the chief can say something about it. This position, we hope, from a salary standpoint, at least pays for half itself. In the revenue in the general fund, we have $25,000 in the general fund revenue for inspections. So we put that in there, that's the goal. So that's to help pay for some of this, the salary of this position.
Also, as I explained before, this is not only about what it's going to cost us, but also about what it's going to save us. The insurance service organization establishes the rate that you pay for your homeowner's insurance. Without a dedicated effort as far as making our pre-plans and our fire inspections consistent and accurate, there's a serious responsibility and liability for us in losing part of our insurance rating. Right now, we're an ISO rating of a 2, which is outstanding. There's only one's as good as you can get, and we're a 2 here at the beach. That's an outstanding rating for us to have here in Madeira Beach. But if we lose that direction of our fire inspection systems, we're in jeopardy of losing that money, number one. Number two, we're always looking at other ways to increase revenue, whether we look at contracting out with other departments Had a conversation with a department south of us just the other day about what is our options of working together and working collectively together to make good things happen for the city. So I think there's additional revenues and decreased expenses available to us that we've got to work our way through. But I think it's very important to understand that if we lose our ISO rating, we're also going to lose part of the decreased insurance costs that we have come to appreciate here at the beach.
Any other comments? Let's read the roll.
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing that, that we need to make sure that we get the things that like Ms. Oakley asked for, you know, we get these answers as quickly as possible, please.
And two, just before you vote, and understanding we have a motion, remember you're voting for an ordinance to adopt the budget. So if there's anything that you're wanting to change before the second reading, it's something that needs to be done relatively quickly so it can be advertised. So, you know, you're talking about getting additional information. If that's in an effort to change something within the budget, that needs to be done relatively quickly because you are adopting this budget. It's not adopting a tentative budget, it's adopting the budget.
From what I heard, it's just an explanation of why we have certain things the way they're budgeted.
Well, that's true, and also, you know, like the chair services at Archibald, there's no dollar
Right.
amount in there at all.
That would be the one I was concerned with, was the Archibald Park, how it's booked.
Yeah.
If that needs to change at all.
Again, that's in the general fund, and
So-
that contract decreased. Why? I have no idea.
But it went from 43,000 for just Archibald 2 years ago to 15,000 for the entire beach, from Archibald all the way down to Johns Pass.
Again, I can get you an answer on that. I didn't know that that issue was going to come up, but I can get you an answer on that. But I stand with the figures in there. If we have to move money around come October from one fund to another, that's natural, and I have no problem doing that.
Okay, I guess we're just looking to see where, you know, what are we being paid at Archibald, since that's a separate one, and versus the rest of the beaches? That's what we're looking for, and to see those dollar amounts where they belong.
And a copy of the contract.
We'll get the information and get it available to you. My understanding was there was a change in the contractual agreement that we had with the vendor, and that's why there was a decrease in that fund. Why it was flipped over into the other account, I'm not sure, but we will get that information and get it together and get it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other thing, based on trim guidelines, once council hopefully approves this budget, under trim guidelines, we will then place the ad in the paper for the final hearing, which is on the 19th. And the ad in the paper will be published on the 15th, which is next Friday. And those are under trim guidelines that we have to follow.
Walt, could you also, in regard to what Ms. Hodges asked for, give us a better breakdown on that stuff, not saying it's kitchen stuff, you know, kitchen supplies,
I'll have you-
and put that in the budget, please,
Absolutely.
as it stands properly.
I'll have the detailed list for you, absolutely.
Okay.
Will the interim city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
No?
Commissioner Oakley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalfer?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Next, we have reports and correspondence. Any reports from the city commission?
No, but I have a couple of questions, or requests. Chief, if you could look into sometime, and I know you're busy right now, but add this to your list of a sidewalk coming from Bay Pines to Madeira Beach Elementary, or Fundamental.
What are you asking me to do?
A sidewalk from Bay Pines, the VA. I know about it. 100th Way to us on it'd be the south side of the road, continuous. And one other thing, quite a few people have asked me about this, a crossover at Dockside Dave's / Gary Louie's. There's a beach access right there, and a lady that works at one of the restaurants told me that she sees near deaths every day.
I actually meant to bring that up to when they had a meeting with the Florida Department of Transportation. today, and I forgot it, with everything else going on. We can look into that, but that is strictly a DOT road, but we can
Right.
encourage them and ask them if they would put a crosswalk in there.
Well, because there are 2 restaurants there and quite a few residents in that vicinity, and not only 2, there's that other one that's just like a half a block away. A lot of people gather there and they want to walk across the street at Sunset or just go to the beach, and that's the access for them.
I agree 100%. We can get with Department of Transportation and see if we can't get something to put in that area.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Anything else? City Attorney?
Oh, wait.
Oh,
Okay.
Bill?
Were we gonna look at this?
Oh, we can do that afterwards. Or were we supposed to do that here?
Did you want us to make a decision on this here?
Yes, hopefully we could pick those up.
What, you want us to just circle it?
Just circle it, we just need a consensus of what color you like. Hey, Mayor, Commissioner,
Johnny's colorblind.
Mayor,
Don't make fun of colorblind guy.
Mayor and Commissioners, I would like to just say one thing. I'd like to just thank my finance staff for putting up with me the last 3.5 months and answering questions and helping me so I could put the budget together, and the department heads that helped me as well. And also Daryl. Daryl knew a lot about, not just about the fire department, but a lot of the other accounts and things going on in the city, and I thought his leadership and guidance was very good through the process. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to you as well, because I know you had a short time to get this all done, and there's a lot going on. So thank you very much. City Attorney?
Nothing from me, Madam Mayor.
Acting City Manager, anything else?
No, ma'am, I'd just like to remind everybody to stay diligent, watch the weather reports, and act accordingly. While we're thanking people, I'd like to thank Walt. It's been a very arduous task for him to complete, and it's been a challenge for city staff as well. I appreciate your vote of confidence in your support through this process and allowing us the resources that we need to provide the services that you expect from your city. Thank you.
I would like to just say one thing. You know, listening to the people, there's not a lot, I know not everyone's happy with the budget, but, you know, I'm hoping when we get this budget review committee in, that for next year that you guys can, the people on the board can really be tearing it apart and really helping us, the BOC, you know, get this under control the way it should be. You know, I'm not making excuses for this year. And I know people aren't happy, but it is what it is at this point, I think. And I think we just need to move forward from this point on and just hopefully the Budget Review Committee can work closely with the Finance Director and we can get the things like the salary and all these expenses under control. And, you know I've asked, when we started this thing, I told the Finance Director that just to figure out the cell phones, I had to go to 50 different pages to figure out how much we're spending on cell phones versus like, and uniforms also is brought up. I mean, it's all over the place. You know, next year I'd like to see, besides it doing this way, you know, put cell phones in each department, how much, and try to figure out where we can save. And same way with uniforms and all these other, you know, it might be nickel and diamond, but I think at this point we really need to get it under control. So I just wanted to put that out, and I'll say it again when we, next Tuesday when we pick the different committees and get them started. And it's never too soon to get these things started, I think, and for us meaning the city, to move in the right direction. Thank you.
One other thing we also discussed in all this, I discussed with Walt, is the fact that the employees need to start having some kind of a buy-in to their health insurance, dental, all those different things. So all that needs to get looked at next year too. And they need to have buy-in to their retirement accounts. There's not a city, a company anywhere in the United States that pays 100% full loaded boat everything. That's just unheard of this day and age. So that's just something that I've had a discussion with him about how to implicate that, because like you said, it can't be done overnight, and you can't penalize the employees for it, but it's still going to have to happen over time. And at least get the ball rolling with it. I'm through.
Okay. Interim city clerk, any reports, correspondence? In that case, it's 7:01, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.